and you can start surfing waves without actually physically having to learn how to surf, whether they be ocean waves, sound waves, light waves, or whatever. So the first thing I'll mention is that we have the Eclipse. It's about to move into the Eclipse, and there's a lot going around social media. Summer actually wrote a post that's in the Inner Authority community, and I think it's really good. It's a really well-written post, not just because she's my wife, but just because it's actually a good post. And it goes into some of the facts that, you know, what we see in the modern day and age, like I alluded to in the last stream, is not necessarily based on fact and based on law and based on, you know, history of what people have come to understand the cosmos to be. Most of the stuff that you hear today is just, you know, whatever somebody wants to say on social media, it gets some brownie points and then it just gets shared as if it's real. And so she wrote a bit about, you know, what goes on in ancient law and some of the ancient Chinese astrology wisdom and whatever. And I think it was really good. That's been a good response so far. That was only put up this afternoon. So for those that aren't already in the Inner Authority community, feel free to check that out. It's at thehumblekingdom.com. You go to the offerings tab and you can join the community. It supports the streams and you also get a community to go with it. Other than the eclipse, there's been quite a few things happening in the world. Something that apparently just happened and I only heard about it was in Sydney, I think. There was a big group of extremists, you might call them that are in the LGBTQ-esque area. I don't know exactly, so don't quote me on that. But basically what they'd done was they'd gotten a government grant to put on some kind of like religious event and then ended up promoting all of this weird stuff to the community. And it's apparently a bit embarrassing for the government because they had funded this thing. And what's really interesting about this is there's two ways to look at it. And one that, most people would jump straight to is you're like, well, it's probably set up, as in it's meant to enrage people. It's not meant to be something that is, oh, well, we just made a mistake. We're really sorry about that. It's usually done to enrage people. But at the same time, I mean, I've had a lot of experience in this, and not just directly, but I do know also a lot of people that have gone and put in for grants and gotten grants from the government of like a lot of money to do whatever they want with for the arts or for music. And it kind of blows my mind because I'm like, really? They just give out money like that? And sometimes you do just have people who are, middle of the road people, have got themselves into what they think is a secure job. They're not really all there in any sense of the word. And then, they just give money out to people and they don't really know why. They just have to press a button so they keep their job. And so honestly, like there's a couple of reasons that this is important is that one, you would be surprised at how many elements of the government are there to actually support you, and not just support as in give you money. That's the wrong use of the word of support, but the system is not entirely set up to work against us. I honestly believe that if it's not just at the bare minimum, the middle ground, it's not meant to harm us nor support us. It's actually more, in my opinion, from what I've seen over all of my experience in the, being in the system, out of the system, like out of society, semi-in society and whatever, is that the system's actually there to support us, mostly because the system is us. And to the degree to which we don't know who we are is the degree to which we will not know the system and we will not know how to use it. And we'll continually try to fight it and think that it's this immoral thing and it's wrong and it's unjust and it's inequitable and it should be taken down. It needs to be changed. There needs to be reform. And I'm like, technically some of that's true, but that's only in isolation, because if you apply all that to yourself, would any of that be true? And I would maintain that all of that would be true for the majority of people on earth, because all of that stuff that we see as wrong out there is basically happening to us. And it explains a lot. There's a lot of law in that would explain why we don't quite have the happiness that we believe that we should have, or the right amount of energy or fairness like in the body. And then we'll obviously then go and blame the system further because there's too many sprays in the skies and chemicals in the soil and the water's poisoned and it's very hard to get good quality food, or I have to work too much, pay too many taxes, it's draining on me. And I wouldn't argue with those things. I would say all those things are technically true, but I would also invite people to ask, how much of that am I doing to myself because of the government, the mind control that I experience purely just due to myself? So imagine coming into the world and you're in a holding cell instead of meeting the world. So you've never been programmed by the television, by schooling. You haven't been exposed to the EMFs and the algorithms and the AI and anything like that that's in the world. You're just in this holding cell between birth and then being in the world. And you grow up in there and you get to like 16 to 18. Do you still think that you would be programmed? Because in my opinion, we come in with programs. It's all ancestral. So there are so many beliefs, operating systems, which are all programs, that influence and determine and govern how we will meet the world once we're in it, irrespective of all of the things that go on in the world that we perceive to be negative and programmed to bring us down or work against us. We already have that coming in. So you might think, well, no one's born with poverty consciousness or, bad money hygiene or money mindset or, relating to the opposite sex. But it's like, even just your birthing process could give you a funny idea about what a mother or a father is meant to be. Like if you're born into a hospital, right? And the first thing you see is fluorescent lights and people with masks. And then the umbilical cord that's connected to the mother is just cut. You're taken off, maybe even not put directly on the mother. You go to like a little holding crib first before you give to the mother. The mother thinks that this is all cool. So you, in your full intelligence, know that this is really whack. You're like, what's going on? And your mum's just like, hey, baby, welcome to the world. She's not protecting you in that way. And in your heart of hearts, even as an infant, that something's not right. But she's treating it like there's nothing wrong. Immediately, there's trust issues. There's a separation from the mother. And then where's the dad? What's he doing? This voice that you might have heard for 9 months in the background, you're like, yeah, he's cool. This is my dude. And then all this shit happens to you in the first 5 minutes of your life. If you go into a holding cell, you're still going to have programs. And that's before you even contemplate your ancestral lineage of some of your ancestors who were beheaded, hung, like stoned to death, or stoned others to death. Some of the rage that might, flow through the current of your ancestry, some of the fears. That's where phobias come from. Like they're totally irrational. A lot of them are coming from past experiences that are epigenetically triggered by the environment that we're in. So I do believe, as I said, that the system is not there to bring us down. I don't think it's a great one, but I also don't think really that things would be too much different if the systems were different, because the people aren't going to be any different. Would a different, more equitable system allow people to grow to be more, just better people in general? Yeah, I think so. I would actually say that. But the problem with that is that we don't actually know that, because should anything actually go awry in that system, we don't know how much people will flip out. Like anyone can be a nice guy when they have plenty of food in their belly, plenty of money in their bank account, they're in a nice environment. Everyone can be like, cool, they're good to each other. But you start to take a few of those things away, people change pretty quick, right? So what's to say that just because a system is better and it looks after people better and they don't have to try as hard or toil or whatever, that's actually better off? So I really think that the realm we're in, it's such a complex, magical creation that, like, I've got no issue with it. I actually love the fact that we have to toil, that it's not as easy as we might like it to be, that it's a little quote unquote unfair in some ways, because in that is great fairness, great equity, great wealth. I just think it's awesome personally. Like I wouldn't trade, if I knew that there was a parallel world, and I'll come to this in a second, and I could go into it and, it's better than this one. It's like there's less pollution, there's better frequencies, there's better opportunities. No one's getting in your way. There's no government trying to tell you that, in the next month you won't be able to fly out of the country or whatever unless you do this. Imagine that doesn't exist. I don't actually know that I would trade places. I would take a holiday there. I go and spend a month there, collect a few things within myself and then come back, because this is where I'm born to be. Unless, of course, which I may as well speak about now, me and Summer, like I've been saying, we've been doing some research and we've been going to a few places to watch shows that might be like popular or even obscure. And we found one called, I always get the name wrong. I'll look it up in a sec. I'll explain it while I'm looking it up. So it's got JK someone or other in it. He's actually a great actor. Normally, I'm not that fussed with actors because I don't think anyone's a good actor. But this guy did a great job. It was on Stars series about your other. What was it called? This was called Counterpart. That's what it was called. So Counterpart is about a place. It's actually set in Berlin. And what happened is back a while back, maybe a couple of decades ago, a guy, like somehow accidentally or whatever, doing some experiments, something happened where a rift occurred in the time-space continuum, and then the realm replicated itself. And it was separated by this tunnel that's in Berlin. And when I say a tunnel, I just mean like a walkway that's maybe 20 feet across. So you go through this doorway, and then you go through this walkway, and then on the other side is the exact same world that's just mirrored. So everything's the same. And it's really interesting because they cover a lot of kind of cool topics such as, or thought processes such as, what is it that would mean that a path or a life path diverges and then they go completely different, and what part of the individual is in both you and your counterpart, or they call them their other. So the idea is, imagine that you're just sitting here now, and whatever room you're in, or like the home that you're in, you get to later, there's one door where if you open it, let's say it's the front door, you go out and then you can go into the same world, but it's a mirror, and you can find your other in there. It looks like you, everything about you, same like childhood up until a certain point where things split, and then certain decisions, or like the whole butterfly effect thing happens, which means that totally different outcomes. You take different life paths, become different people, but you're kind of still the same person. It's very, very well done. I love the acting in it. Like I said, it's the only time I've ever been actually impressed with acting, because this guy, JK, whatever his last name is, his character in like the normal world is so different from the character in his other, but he's also similar. And you can tell, no matter what scene it is, which one he is. And you might just be like, well, but it's honestly, you'd have to see it to see that the mannerisms, the characteristics, like it's so believable and it's so different. Like the character he plays in this world is so very much different to the character he's playing in that world, night and day, but you can always tell, and he didn't miss a beat. It's like very impressive. But it's a very, very impressive, whatever you call it, like theme that they explored with that. And I'm surprised they did it, because I do believe that is a real thing. I think it's got a lot to do with what CERN and the Large Hadron Colliders are about. It's not just changing times and timelines and that. It's actually because, like I said this before, I'd even included in our beginner's guide. Haven't gone into it much. I'll explore it later as the course grows. But when you have a strong life path and you're not just an NPC or you're cloned or whatever, you will be aware of or even come across a doppelganger. And a doppelganger is somebody who really, really is very reminiscent of you, like almost eerily similar. Not a pure clone, but like so similar. It's like, oh my God, like I swear that was you. Looked exactly like you. Even had the same mannerisms. That's a doppelganger. And they exist in the world. And the question though is whether or not they exist in our realm because they're already in the realm, or if there is the mirror world and they cross between because they're meant to interfere somehow with, or test. It's a test for you in this realm. Can you master your doppelganger, so to speak? Not kill him, not like you're not really meant to interact with them, so to speak, but them being present and them potentially being able to like whatever to your life in this realm, are you able to master that? And that's part of the life path of people who are, you know, have more of a soul journey and to individuate. I think just to clarify what I'm saying is that I do believe that it's actually got more to do with the process of individuation for your soul path than it has kind of do with anything else. So very fascinating topic. And if you haven't seen that one, I would recommend Counterpart. I think it was really well made. Midwits, yes. Our biggest influence is ourself. Could it be? Yeah. And that's what I was getting at earlier. So where we are governed, it is the government. That's our mind. We are controlled by our mind, which is why we're meant to transcend that aspect of control. Not transcend the mind altogether, but I guess we could say that the heart That's kind of where the soul resides, and that's where it's much closer to our essence. And that's not programmed. It is, but it's by the creator. So that contains our pure blueprint. And then everything else is the filter. So we have like the essence through the soul and into the world. And then everything in between is a filter. And the mind is what protects that until such time that we don't really need it. But most of us are honestly running almost 100% programs. Occasionally, and it'll be very spontaneous, we'll come into our heart for a bit. We'll have a moment of clarity. There's no fear. There's no nothing. There's only presence. But for most people, it doesn't last that long. And a lot of people think they're in their heart. Like I've spoken to a lot of people who really believe that they're in their heart. And it's like, they've done DMT or, those cactus plants. I'm not against it all, by the way. But when people come out of that and they're like, yeah, it's fully heart opening and I'm in my heart and I love doing heart-based stuff, it's mind that's doing that. And you should never put somebody down, by the way, that's doing that, because it can fragment their progression to actually being in the heart. But at the same time, they're clearly not. It's like most people are really, really in their minds. And that, in my opinion, from my experience, what I've learnt about everything is what this realm is. Topher Gardner, I first heard him say that we live in a temporal realm, and then which is really the realm of mind. So by being in the realm of mind, a lot of it is just through this filter or this projection that is all of our minds collectively dreaming the same dream, thinking the same thought, and projecting the same projection, which is what makes it the hologram or the simulation. But the part of that I think people miss is that we are also, what's also being carried into that, it's just protected by the mind, therefore it's shut off, is the essence, the soul. And part of our process of individuation is transcending that element of mind where we don't need the protection of the illusions, so that we can actually feel into and be who we truly are and allow that to come into the world. Now, the question then becomes, does it enter the world in its pure form? Is that even possible? Are the people that do enter their pure form, are they no longer visible as a human being? Are they more of a spectral being, a light being, a transcended or ascended master? Are they a bird now, like a particular type? Are they an angel? Are they like what? What are they now? And I don't know the answer to that. I just know that that's a very poignant question to ask. I do know that there are people in this world who have not, I hate the word hate, that's a strong word. I don't like the word transcend because it has connotations of all this spiritual nonsense stuff. I should say that because transcend implies getting out of, as in you leave your body or you're like out of the system, out of the world, you're out of the reincarnation, soul trap, or whatever people think that is. I really think it's the total opposite. I think it's you're so embodied in not just who you are, but what you are, that you then, it's almost like you jump time or something. It's just like you're instantly in something else. I've experimented with this doing different forms of breath work. So really heavily in chronic fatigue, I had very, very low blood pressure. If your kidneys are very depleted, you have a lot of adrenal fatigue, you're really not functioning that well. You can be, not always, but I mean, this is the thing. It's a broad spectrum thing. Not everybody with chronic fatigue will have this. It's got to do with a lot of different factors. For me, and I've seen it play out in other people, although I've seen also the complete opposite. That's why it's not a hard and fast rule. Will have some form of low blood pressure. And so what I was able to do is, if I was in any way sleep deprived, I was too tired, I was whatever, hadn't eaten enough, whatever it is, there's plenty of ways the blood pressure can drop. I could induce unconsciousness. And the way I would do that is by I'd be doing breath cycles, and then I would hold a really strong breath hold with a very strong squeeze, and I could get it so that I could pass out. And the same thing happened to me one time when I was lifting a very, very heavy weight after I was in the gym, and I was testing myself because even though I was sick, I was still doing big wave surfing. And it's very important to make sure that you're confident in your lungs to be able to handle long hold downs underwater so you don't freak out and blow all your oxygen. And I was doing crawls on the gym floor while holding my breath and exercising a lot of pressure and tension. And while still holding my breath, I would get up, pick up a 40 kilogram weighted medicine ball, like an Atlas stone, but it wasn't stone. It was and then you had to get it. For myself, I made that I'd put it up on this ledge. And then I remember feeling myself start to go, but I wanted to fight through it because I'm like, I will not take a breath. And this is kind of irrelevant, but just so that you know, if you can program yourself to not take the breath, if you pass out, your body, your intelligence takes care of the rest and you won't take in water. But if before you feel like you're going to pass out, you freak out, you succumb to fear, and you try to breathe in, you'll breathe in water and you'll essentially drown yourself. So it's actually safer to pass out underwater. And that's how people have been saved, and babies and whatever can be saved, because they have an intelligence not to breathe. Like you chuck a newborn in the water, they don't try to breathe. They know instinctively to hold their breath. So the true intelligence that the body has, or the soul has, knows not to breathe underwater. Anyway, I could feel it going, and I just went, nah, I'm going to just stick this out to the very end. And I passed out right as I put the 40 kilogram ball on the thing. And then I at that point, that's the last thing I remember. And then the next thing I remember is looking up at some dudes going, fuck, are you all right? Are you all right? And I try to get up and I'm like, I'm fine. And they go, don't move, you just knocked yourself out. So I'd passed out on my feet, fallen down and knocked my head on the ground. Lucky it's a gym floor, so I got a big bump in my head, but I didn't do any like major damage. But other than that, the other times I've done is just through breath and through holding it and creating enough thoracic pressure. And as soon as I've gone out, it's immediately in another world. Like no falling asleep and then whatever. It's like I'm in this world and then instantaneously I'm in another world, like literally another world. And it's different from dreams. It's a funny thing. So that's how, like, just from that experience and just from other things I've learned about the realm and other things, which I'll maybe go into in detail another time, fascinating things about the realm. I do believe that there are different worlds we can jump into, but part of the reason we're here now is to fully embody us and this experience in this realm. Not because there's another, there's the other side, which we could go to and trade places with our other, or like meddle in their life or whatever. It's that we're meant to be doing this now. And it's a real gift. And as we can do that and perform that duty, or, fulfill that role, then, we can kind of jump around a bit after that. And that's where you might hear of people who describe things like, maybe jumping timelines, or going back or forward in time, or like as in time traveling, or levitating, or what's the one where it's like translocation, where you could just be going somewhere, or teleporting. So that's all possible in this realm. And I think it's through that. Where it's definitely not is where you hear people and they got these huge followings and that, and they're like, you just astral travel, you leave your body. Anything that gets you out of your body to leave your body consciously, from, things like Joe Dispenza's meditation sort of stuff, the dude with the hair that chicks like doing all the astral travel stuff, the chick with the hair that guys like that talks about, remote viewing and things like that. A lot of that's the inversion. It's very dangerous stuff, as opposed to getting so in your body and so present, not escapist, that those things become possible. They're definitely not possible when you're doing the outer stuff. Very important to understand these principles. So yeah, anyway, I hope that is quite clear to people, and that I'm not also trying to be a guru here and telling everybody what to do or what to think. It's just that in my experience, a lot of that, like really knowing about the world through my experiences, that's just not a healthy thing. If you've done it or you're interested in it, I'm not trying to sway you either. Plenty of my mates have done copious amounts of psychedelics and whatever, and in their own time, they come around to realizing that they probably shouldn't have done it, or more to the point, they didn't need to, but the experiences still served them. Same with astral traveling and remote viewing and projecting this and out of body that, whatever, if it's happening in a natural sequence and you're not jumping out of your timeline in order to do that because you're just trying to escape something, then, it's like, whatever. You can't, you shouldn't have regrets about stuff. You shouldn't be too righteous about things. You shouldn't take things too seriously to the point where you're like, I'll never do a psychedelic. I'd never do this. I'd never there's a balance point in the middle. I just recommend that the more you can get into your body and into the present without trying to escape anything, you're just like, that's path to mastery. It does shroud the heart. Yeah. The mind is actually, it's not a bad thing. It's about mastering the mind. Once the mind becomes aware of what it is, then it's okay. But while the mind's running off in programs, it's going to always rule you. That's the government. That's the mind control. And it's your mind control or our mind control. It's not the government, which is a different entity. It still has, or elicits control, but it's not the primary control mechanism. The primary control mechanism is our mind and how it's already programmed. Heart-shaped muffins, yeah. Elevate is so when we're talking about elevating, we can elevate our energy, we can elevate our consciousness, so to speak, but it's not done through leaving. The most powerful people on earth are not the most elevated, they're the most grounded. So if you can, depending on how you're taking these words, because we can have, one person can be talking about elevating and another is also talking about elevating, but meaning two totally different things. So it really depends on your own definition, of course, as well. But I would imagine that if you are contextualizing it in the same way that we all are, look for being very grounded and very solid. A vibrologist, I like that. Okay, surfers are like super energy conduits. Yeah. Surfing is, in my opinion, it's like one of the most pure experiences that you can have. And because you're literally riding the currents of energy that normally we don't see them moving through the air, but you see them moving through the water because they create swells in the ocean. And it's a very surreal thing to do, to be able to ride that. What's funny though is that when a lot of people, they get into surfing as a hobby or a pursuit or whatever, as soon as you once again, start taking anything too seriously and you start focusing more on like, oh, I got to get my turns right, or I need a new board, or like this place sucks, or there's too many people, or I like these waves, not that waves. Like that's all fine, but just you should never let that get in the way of the absolute awe and the absolute wonder of riding in real time life's natural waves. It's like, it's a surreal thing. And so many people, even though if they become great surfers, they're very technical surfers, like great surfers, there's all form there. There's like really no substance. Some people have a genuine gift for it, and there is substance there. It's very natural. What I'm saying though is when there is the ability to witness something like that or partake in something like that, it's very important to remember, once again, the lowest or the most humble part, not the flashy stuff, and just the act of just being able to tap into that energy source and then feel it for what it is beyond the joy that you can get from, just riding a wave and it being the ride of your life, which is also amazing. So just for a point of reference, a couple of months ago, I went out with Dave Oenigs on the jet ski locally here. It was a big swell, and there was no one out at one of the breaks outside of the point breaks. And he got me into a wave that was like, 3-4 times overhead. He rode out in front of the wave. I'm on it, just trying to control the speed. It's such a big and very long wave, and he's just blowing his mind just out in front watching it. And I'm on it, and it's everything is just like scrambling the mind. And then there's dolphins in it too, riding in the wave in front of me. And there's just this whole scene is playing out. It got to the point where after the ride, we both couldn't even fully remember the whole thing because it was that scrambling to the mind. Now that's one experience of surfing, or, a very heightened experience where time kind of like it contracts a little, and also being in a flow state. But one of the issues with that is that it's a different energy to just absolutely feeling the deep essence and the majesty of what that really means to ride in the natural ways of life like that. So if you can marry both, that's what you would call like an ascension experience, so to speak. So yeah, it's very, if you haven't experienced that, you might not even have an inclination to do it yourself, but to witness it, you can still feel the same thing. Even just witnessing ocean swells and like connecting to what that is and the feeling of that, you don't have to even be a surfer and ride it. Is that awesome? Yeah, it's awesome. But I still don't believe that you have to. It's like if you listen to music, I might listen to music different to someone else because I play music and I can feel playing it myself as I listen to it, but that doesn't mean I'm enjoying the music more. or experiencing the essence of the music any differently from somebody who has no musical ability whatsoever, but is still connecting to the essence of the music, of the frequency waves. So it's a similar thing. Hope that makes sense, because I think that's a really strong point. Waking from being choked out, I've felt peaceful and rested. Yeah. So Savas is a jiu-jitsu guy. And yeah, I felt that as well. Being choked out, and I don't recommend it, but you can definitely do it. Will you let somebody choke you? If you're going to do that, by the way, you generally speaking, you hold your arms up so that as soon as you go out, you can't hold your arms up anymore. They'll drop, and that's when somebody knows to release the choke. It's not choking your airways, by the way. It's just choking the blood flow to your head. Yeah, it can be very similar. Yeah, very similar. Actually, what we might do is, because I have a lot lined up for the rest of the week, we might just keep this as a shorter stream. They're just going to do that mainly because some of that we just covered is quite in depth. And sometimes, you can get into the trap of just having too much content where it's like, it starts to become infotainment, but it's too much to the part of entertainment and just going from one topic to another. And it's titillating, but never actually getting into it. So I would invite you as a listener that if you want to start riding the waves of life, and we have our own waves as well, we have our own currents, and we have different currents in different seas, and being able to tap into those is really one of the fundamental parts of magic in life. It's what I'm going to be covering also in the money workshop, which is on the 13th of September, 2 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So I'm going to go through natural law and you, and the way that you relate to money under natural law. And a lot of it's got to do with the currencies and these waves and cycles that happen very naturally that are totally outside of the mind, as we've been covering throughout the stream. It's not a mind thing. It's not a mental thing. It's a felt thing, and money follows those. And when we can follow in the same currents, then money becomes, I won't say easy, because I don't want anyone to get the impression they're just immediately going to become a millionaire because of it. But what it does is it always gives you enough. So if you need enough to eat, you'll eat. If you need enough to pay rent, you'll pay rent. But let's say that happens, but then you're like, okay, well then I'll just rent a mansion for $12,000 a week, and therefore, because I understand natural law of money, it'll supply that. That's not really how it works, because that's getting into the mind then, and that's controlling things. So now you're governed again. So that's the government. So yeah, that's very important. But just this whole essence of element of the waves of life, whether it's an ocean swell, like a musical note, that's still a wave. It's a pressure wave, and you can learn how to ride these things. And that's what people will describe if they're on copious amounts of drugs. They might even start saying that they're seeing waves, they're seeing waveforms, and like, I can see the music. And you don't need drugs to do that. It's just when you get out of such a dense state of judgment, which is like, it's this, it's that, it's good, it's bad, it's too fast, it's too loud, it's whatever. And you start to actually feel into what's beneath that. Now you're tapping into that current more. And you can do that very consciously, and you can do it in like 2 seconds. It's a choice. It's a choice to get more out of the mind and into like feeling the current that's there, and then observing the wave. And once you observe a wave, much like you would observe with your eyes a wave on the ocean, you can then actually meet it. If you witness it and then you connect with it, you can actually feel it. And you can ride a wave to a more pure degree than a surfer surfing the wave who's not really present with what they're doing. They're more in their head about what they're doing. So I'll leave you with that, because I think it's one of the lessons I learned about like 2010 when I was about 2010, I think it was. I remember I was sitting on top of I lived on the Gold Coast, and I was on top of, it's called, no, not Magic Mountain. It was like the North Burleigh Hill, the Miami Hill. And I used to sit on the edge of the cliff because I was really not well at the time and had very little energy, and I was really trying to find a way to still experience what I used to experience in a more tangible physical sense, and I couldn't experience so much anymore. And I was sitting there for a moment as the sun down, and then I noticed that I felt weightless, as in, I'm like, shit, am I floating? And I wasn't, but I started to feel weightless, and I noticed that I was breathing with the world, like the world around me is like life. It was pulsating, and my breath was in the exact same tempo as the pulsation of the world. And I was like, oh shit, that's what it feels like to be in sync or in rhythm with the actual energetics or frequencies of the actual earth. And the reason I know that that's what it was is because I immediately had an alleviation of any kind of pain or fatigue, which I was feeling heavily at the time. And that was the first time I was like, oh, I don't have to be lifting weights or running stairs and hills or fighting people in the gym or surfing these waves that are in the ocean, because all of that is available to us at a deeper, like under the surface, at a deeper level that creates all that. There's nothing wrong with enjoying the form. Like, I love surfing. I love playing music. I love, grappling in the gym. I love lifting weights and stuff. Like, it's very fun. It's very embodying. It's great. But there are other levels to life where you don't have to lose your health in order to be able to experience that, or take copious amounts of drugs to be able to experience that. You can do it for real, in real time right now, just by being very present and just getting quieter with yourself. So as you stop oscillating so intensely, which puts you much more in the frequency spectrum of matter and density, then you can actually tap into these subtle layers and you can start surfing waves without actually physically having to learn how to surf, whether they be ocean waves, sound waves, light waves, or whatever. So I'll leave you with that. Once again, if you enjoy the streams and you actually like to learn deeper parts of this, first thing we have coming up is the money workshop on 12th of September. I'll post a link to this once it goes up. And that is going to give you access as well to the Inner Authority community. If you just enjoy the streams and you don't really want to do workshops or our course, you can support. It's only $8 a month and you get access to the community where so Summer put that post about the solstice and astrology. I've put in a few lectures from my past that I've recorded that haven't gone on YouTube or anything before. And some people are finding some great value in that. There's a lot of people now starting to put their own musings into the community, which is creating a lot more value as well. And so that's $8 a month. But if you get any of our core products, such as any of the workshops or the Beginner's Guide to Natural Law, you get the community included with that as well. So all that's available at thehumblekingdom.com in the offerings tab. And as usual, if you just appreciate what we do and you don't like subscriptions or products, and occasionally you just want to throw something in, there is a donate tab there as well. And if you want to send anything, which somebody generously sent something recently, it's PO Box 4444, Tugun, Queensland 4224. I'll put that in the description anyway. But once again, thank you for joining. Thank you for the good energy in the chat and by being here live. And see you guys on the next stream.